Good debt is your friend. Get into as much good debt as possible. Getting comfortable with good debt. Getting into good debt right now is going to help you just really build up that wealth base. It's putting your cash to work. You're in more debt, but you have more passive income. Inflation is there to help devalue that debt over time. That debt is far less significant in 10, 15, 20 years time than what it is today. It's just a shift in mindset. Do I want to create passive income where I can choose to not work 5 days a week full time until the age of 65? Or do I want to work for 40 years to the age of 65 but not have that debt on the owner occupied property? Getting into good debt gives you far more choices, far more opportunity long term than paying down your owner-occupied debt. Welcome back to another episode of the Tailored Property Wealth Podcast. My name is Casey Taylor. I'm the host of the podcast. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about good debt and getting into as much good debt as possible. And I kind of wanted to touch on this one just because a couple of conversations I've had recently with some clients who have engaged. I've managed to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio in just a few short years, and I want to inspire and motivate other Australians that if I can do it, so can you. The Tailored Property Wealth Podcast has been created to help educate, mentor, coach, and support you through everything relating to property investing to make sure you go out there and make a much better educated decision when investing in property. Please like, share, subscribe, and share this podcast with anyone who you think might see value in it. One of their goals is like paying off their owner occupied debt, which is fantastic. Awesome if you don't have an owner occupied debt. However, that can hold us back just focusing on paying that owner occupied debt off. And it can kind of stop us from really being able to achieve the maximum amount that we can in certain positions. If you're focusing on just paying debt down, it can really limit you. Whereas understanding that getting into as much good debt as possible and really leveraging to get that larger wealth base and then letting that compound effect and time do its thing, it's actually going to leave you in a far better financial position. So I think it's just a really good, valuable one today to go back and touch on. And one of the other episodes that we've done in the past is financially free versus debt free. And I think that's a really valuable one to go back and watch if you haven't done already, because you can be in a position where you're in more debt, but you have more passive income, even though you're holding that debt. And over time, you're creating more passive income, but your loan to valuation ratio drops, even though you might be holding that larger debt. And if we can over time create a passive income, that's going to help us anyway and make us better off than just getting rid of the mortgage, but still having to pay for everything else, right? So let's get into it. And so one of the clients I was talking to, they don't want to purchase any more investment properties. And that's totally fine, right? But in a position where they've got really strong income, they've got an owner occupied property and an investment property, and kind of the goal and plans in, I guess, the short to medium term, 2 to 4 years, is they're wanting to upgrade to a stronger owner occupied property. So not kind of purchasing an investment property is really limiting them, I believe, because when you're pretty much going to buy and sell in the same marketplace, that market for both the property you're residing in now is going to continue to perform, increase in value, but so is the property you're looking to buy. So you're not really getting ahead from that point of view, even though you're getting that stronger equity. Whereas if you're in a position where you've got that income right now to be able to go out there and use that good debt to purchase another property, all of a sudden your money is working for you even stronger. And then in that short to medium term, you can make a decision, and it might be simply holding that property in the shorter term and then selling it when you're wanting to then upgrade and make that purchase. But you're actually going to create more equity, have more additional cash there ready to go for that upgrade on that next purchase. And yes, you've got to factor in your entry and exit costs, because entry and exit costs in property are higher. But if you're still going to have additional equity, additional cash left over to put towards that goal purchase in a couple of years' time, it's going to be very valuable. And it's just a matter of really getting that strategy right, getting the finance, and then targeting an area that's going to perform in the way you need to leverage you into that goal in the next couple of years. So you simply just can't save as much as property performs. So if you can go out there, go to the bank, say, hey, give me money, I want to purchase this property. And then you go out there, you secure that, and you're simply letting time do its thing. You don't have to inject a massive amount of your time into building that wealth base. It's going to serve you extremely, extremely well. And that's just that. It's that mindset thing and getting comfortable with good debt. Getting into good debt right now is going to help you just really build up that wealth base. It's putting your cash to work. Cash is simply just a tool versus not getting into that debt, but you're not getting that bigger wealth base. And sure, you can save a little bit more cash, but it's just not going to be as powerful as that capital growth and what you have left over after that performance in that period of time. So I think that's just a really good one to get your head around. My goal is, and look, the caveat is I have a higher risk profile than a lot of people. So debt does not scare me at all, because I just understand if I'm making those purchases in a really educated way, they're going to serve me extremely well. And over time, you just have more options with the more property you hold to be able to pay debt down and different bits and pieces. Inflation's going to devalue that debt over time as well. So I really understand that. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Tailored Property Wealth Podcast. I hope you're learning lots and getting lots of value out of this episode. If you want to discuss the opportunity of working with us here at Tailored Property Wealth, jump across to the website www.tailoredpropertywealth.com.au, complete the contact form, let us know that you're listening to the Tailored Property Wealth Podcast, and let's reach out, let's have a chat and see how we can help you execute on your property goals. Alrighty. The second one was a conversation, and they have a really, really strong cash position. And I see this is a narrative across the board with really good savers. And a lot of people who come to us investing in property are really good savers, and they're ready to put that cash to work. And really good savers does not mean they're on massive, massive incomes. They are in that middle range where they're not on crazy, crazy, absurd incomes. Not the lowest, but they're at a good level, but they just consistently have a cash surplus and put money away. And over time that builds up and they're in really strong savings positions. But they get married to that bank balance. They check the bank balance. It's like an addiction, right? Logging in, looking at that balance, and if it starts to drop, they have this unhealthy relationship where they need to get that balance back to where it was, which is great to focus on. But when we're then using that cash as a tool to purchase high performing assets, we have to let go of that cash at some point. And yes, it's not as liquid. You're not seeing it directly, but I can tell you now, once you start to purchase property and you start to see that go up in value, that's the new addiction, right? It's not the cash, but it's the property growth, and then over time what your net wealth base is. And you just, like that first example, you will never be able to save as fast as property prices increase and building your wealth that way. So if you have that cash, you want to go to the bank and say, hey, I'm ready to purchase, please give me the money I'm looking for. And then you're using that to go out and purchase that property that performs stronger than what cash does. Inflation kills cash. So if you have 100K sitting in an account today, in 12 months' time, inflation is devaluing that. So you can go out with that same $100,000 and purchase less than what you could 12 months ago. Whereas with property, you're going out using that 100K as a deposit on a $500,000-$600,000 asset, and if it's doing 10% per year, it's outperforming inflation, and that's how you get out of the rat race. So it really is that mindset shift. We're conditioned in society to go out there when we leave school, get a job, work for the man, go out there and borrow money to purchase a car, pay that off, or progressively get a loan every 5 to 7 years, upgrade the car, never pay that debt off. And then we're conditioned to go out there, purchase an owner-occupied property and pay that off over 30 years. That's what society wants us to do. It's like, and it's kind of a generational thing. Some of our parents don't understand that, and they think the be all and end all is purchasing a property, paying it off, and you got no debt on that owner occupied purchase. But then you're still relying on the pension into retirement. If you can build a larger wealth base, hold more debt, but you have passive income and you have a far larger net wealth base, once we take our gross wealth base, we deduct off our debt and we're left with our net wealth base. That's going to be far more valuable, far more significant than just paying off your owner-occupied debt. Owner-occupied debt, you cannot claim tax on. You're not generating income from that owner-occupied debt versus going out there purchasing investment properties. It's a tax deduction. You're getting rental income from that property, and that is truly what an asset is. And you don't have to uproot your life, sell your family home to be able to liquidate assets or whatever that looks like. So getting into good debt gives you far more choices, far more opportunity long-term than paying down your owner-occupied debt. But it's just a shift in mindset. We're conditioned that that's what you need to do. But 2024, things have changed a lot, and you can go out there and use that good debt to your advantage, and it's going to serve you extremely well. Family and friends are going to constantly tell you that investing in property doesn't work, it doesn't do this, don't do it, it's high risk, this, that, and the other. Because some people are talking out of fear for you, genuine fear. And it could be just simply from a lack of education, or they just don't have that risk profile. But some others might be trying to sabotage you, and that's unfortunately just the reality of it. They might be trying to pull you down so that you're not going out there and taking the actions that they're not courageous enough to do, or they don't have that capacity to do. There can be so many reasons why. Sometimes it's simply just, lack of education, right? They don't understand it. So they see you doing it and they're like, oh, what's he doing? Blah, blah, blah. What's she doing? Blah, blah, blah. But you really got to focus on what your goals are. If you truly want to become financially free, you have to get into good debt. You must do that. And getting into good debt is going to be able to create that larger wealth base, that passive income that's going to serve you long term. And that's just a decision ultimately you need to make is, do I want to create financial freedom? Do I want to create passive income where I can choose to not work 5 days a week full time until the age of 65, and I might have the opportunity at 50 to drop back to 3 days a week and have a better work-life balance? Or do I want to work for 40 years to the age of 65 but not have that debt on the owner-occupied property, and then potentially have to sell it at 65, downgrade so that you have more liquid cash to be able to retire and live comfortably. I know for me, I would personally rather build that financial freedom, that passive income, and have more choices. So it's just something to really, really get your head around. Put your cash to work. Don't get married to your cash in the bank. Inflation always is going to devalue that every single day. Put it into high performing assets. Let that money work for you so you don't have to work for the next 20, 30, 40 years. It's very, very powerful. And just remember, I always look at debt as well, right? It's really just a short-term thing. You might hold for a 10-year period, and that's totally fine. And then you might have doubled your money, and by the time you sell, you've got some additional cash left over, and you just can't have saved that in that period of time. So it's powerful. Good debt is your friend. And even if the goal is to upgrade that owner-occupied property, getting into debt now to put it to work it's working for you to achieve that goal. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually going to be there to help you. It's your friend. You've got to get used to it. Anyway, that's the episode done. Good debt is your friend. Get into as much good debt as possible. Put it to work. Over time, your debt is devalued by inflation. If you truly understand that, you will not be so scared of debt. If you're really scared of debt at the moment, then you might not understand that concept of it. And this is something that the government does to get out of its deficits. Inflation is there to help devalue that debt over time. That debt is far less significant in 10, 15, 20 years' time than what it is today, even though that debt amount could be the exact same dollar amount as 15 years ago. All right? It's the same with your cash in the bank. If you hold 100K today, in 15 years' time, you're buying a whole lot less shit with that 100K than you are today. Understand that. Good debt ain't so scary. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you don't already, make sure you follow us across all of our social platforms. That can be Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. I wish you all the best out there on your property investing journey, and I hope each decision you make in purchasing more property gets you closer to your goal of financial freedom.